Lesson 115. Social Justice. What remedies have been proposed for the modern industrial problem of the world? Free countries, countries free from communist colonialism, carry out social reform, social justice, while maintaining political freedom. Totalitarian countries, fascist and communist, claim to emancipate their people from subjection, but in fact entire peoples found themselves in danger of falling back into a barbarism worse than that which oppressed the greater part of the world at the coming of the Redeemer. The Church advocates social justice within the moral order with respect for private property. Enemies of the Church would destroy the moral order and revolutionize society into a godless ant-heap. In 1959, the Catholic bishops of the United States declared, "Ultimately, the problem of communism as a threat to peace and freedom will be met only when we exemplify the principles that we proclaim as Christian members of a nation dedicated to God's law. There must be a searching reappraisal of our devotion to the principles we proclaim. We cannot live as materialists and expect to convert others to our system of freedom and peace under God." The bishops said that in 1959 Soviet dictator Khrushchev took every opportunity to compare unfavourably capitalism with communism in their economic aspects. But, the bishops cautioned, this is not the basic issue. The choice which men and nations must make today is between freedom and coercion. What is social justice? Social justice is the exercise of God-given individual rights taken in relation to common welfare. In order to carry out its primary objective of sanctifying and saving men, the Church defined certain principles of what we term social justice, applying the law of God to conditions of present-day economic life. The attitude of the Church on social justice is best summarized in the papal encyclical Mater et Magistra, Mother and Teacher, of John the 23rd. The aim is to achieve a balance between individualism and the actions of the public authorities for the common good, and for the wealthier nations to help uplift the poorer. First of all, it should be affirmed that the economic order is the creation of the personal initiative of private citizens, but the public authorities must not remain inactive if they are to promote in a proper way the productive development in behalf of social progress for the benefit of all citizens. The principle of subsidiarity states that, just as it is wrong to withdraw from the individual and commit to the community at large what private enterprise and industry can accomplish, so too it is an injustice, a grave ill, and a disturbance of right order for a larger and higher organization to arrogate to itself functions which can be performed efficiently by smaller and lower bodies. Of its very nature, the true aim of all social activity should be to help individual members of the social body, but never to destroy or absorb them. Remuneration of work. This requires that the workers should be paid a wage which allows them to live a truly human life and to face up with dignity to their family responsibilities, but it requires, too, that in the assessment of their remuneration regard be had to their effective contribution to the production and to the economic state of the enterprise and to the requirement of a common good of the respective political communities. Labour management relations. The relations should be marked by appreciation, understanding, a loyal and active cooperation, and devotion to an undertaking common to both, and that the work be considered and effected by all the members of the enterprise, not merely as a source of income, but also as the fulfilment of a duty and the rendering of a service. The principle of natural right to private ownership inclusive of productive goods. The right of private ownership of goods, of productive goods inclusively, has a permanent validity. History and experience testify that in those political regimes which do not recognize the rights of private ownership of goods, the fundamental manifestations of freedom are suppressed or stifled. Further, the right of private property is intrinsically linked to a social function. The goods of the earth are above all destined for the worthy support of all human beings. The rich nations should help the poor. It is, therefore, indispensable and corresponds to the need of justice that technical and financial aid be given in sincere political disinterestedness for the purpose of putting those communities on the way to economic development in a position to realise their own proper economic and social growth. In such a way, a precious contribution to the formation of a world community would be made, a community in which all members are subjects, conscious of their own duties and rights, working on a basis of equality for the bringing about of the universal common good. What are labour unions? Labour unions are associations of working men aimed at the improvement of conditions under which they work as free members of a free society. Many unions make provision for unemployment, sickness, old age, and death in cooperation with management. In spite of their faults, labour unions have brought benefits to their members. More than any other force, they have obtained a measure of justice for labour, helping to equalise forces in the economy. For the preservation of labour's rights, their existence is needed. Man has a natural right to organise, to form organisations that will help him in his chosen work. One can easily see that a single workman trying to sell his labour at a fair price bargains at a great disadvantage with a large business corporation. But if he is a member of a labour union, by the collective bargaining of that union he will be able to obtain reasonable terms. The strike is justifiable for just reasons. Such reasons would be when rights are violated or ignored, when lawful contracts are broken, or when other difficulties of a serious nature exist. The strike should be used only as a last resort when no other means are available. Working men in a strike must use no violence. They should not unreasonably lower the reputation of the employer. Rights and needs of the community affected have to be well considered. Labour unions must be careful not to impose politics of their leaders on members and must deal effectively with labour racketeers. Labour leaders have a responsibility to their members, to industry and to the public at large.